Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon. If you're new to this channel, I am most known for being a comedian and critic here on YouTube, but I'm also a filmmaker. I wrote and directed a film that's been in multiple festivals and won a couple of awards, and I've been asked about the submission process, how to get into festivals a few times, and I thought that would be a fun video to make, so here we are. I will get into a little bit about filmmaking itself, but the first thing I want to talk about is a website called Film Freeway. Back in the day, you used to have to write to a million different festivals, sending DCPs across the globe, trying to get into various festivals, but now it's really easy. You can do it all, mostly, not every festival, but most festivals on one website called Film Freeway. It's pretty prestigious festivals too, like Sundance, Slamdance, Toronto, a bunch of different stuff. You can't get into Cannes, you still have to go through their website for that, so don't be tricked by any sort of festival saying it's Cannes. It's just in Cannes, it's not the Cannes Film Festival. But anyway, what you want to do is go to filmfreeway.com. You want to make an account. It's pretty easy. So here's mine. You got my lovely face here. You've got a bunch of pictures from the film. You can see down here actually my project. Also, you can add a little quote, contact, email address, articles about me or my films and stuff in here. Just stuff, basic stuff. Let them know who you are, kind of like social media. But then what you want to do is you want to make a project. So you go to my projects. I already have one, as you can see the softening here. But regardless, we're going to hit add project. And then that's pretty much self-explanatory, but I'll walk you through it. Whatever your project is it a film? Is it a script? Some festivals accept just scripts, written scripts, or a music video, or photography, VR, whatever it is. You select what it is. So mine's a film. I'll type in the softening, and then you want to give a brief synopsis. And that's not like a full synopsis. You're not explaining the whole plot or anything. It's just like a catchy paragraph or whatever. So what I always say is, a man's wife and kids suddenly disappear. Ignore the typos. Disappear without explanation and are replaced by a strange woman claiming to be his wife. So, just something that you would see maybe, like on IMDb, that one little paragraph, something interesting, something that will grab your attention, let you know the basics of what this is about. No spoilers or anything, but just the basics. Obviously also, so if your project isn't initially in English, then you can also say whatever it is in its own native language down there. Mine is in English, so I'm keeping it in English. Then you can add a link to a website or your social media, something for the film. This isn't like your personal website or personal Instagram. It's specifically intended for the film. So if you've got an Instagram account for your movie, you can link it there, a website, whatever. Next is submitter information. I'm going to have to blur this. Because it's all your personal information. So your email, your phone number, your address, birth date, stuff like that. Pretty simple stuff. Just so that they know who you are, how to get in contact with you, all that kind of stuff. Also proves that you're a real person to an extent. Next, you're going to add in the credits for the film. So director, obviously I would say Simon, Stockdale. And then if there's previous credits, then you can add that in there. So I'm known for the softening, and then you do that again for writer, producers, key cast members. You can add extras to each of this if like there's multiple directors. Mainly you're going to be using it for cast. Oh, I want to know the 4 people from the movie, basically. And what that's for is to just give some sort of familiarity. If you have somebody of notoriety in your movie, that helps a lot. And even if they're not notable, like Daniel Radcliffe or something, if there's somebody that's been in the festival circuit for a while, somebody that people might recognize from a previous festival you were in before, I've got a whole cast of people now that were in a movie that won Best in Show at the Austin Revolution Film Festival. Now, if they see that, oh, this person was in that movie, or they wrote that movie, or they produced it, whatever, I'm going to pay a little bit more attention. And granted, everybody should get a fair shake. That's just what it should be. But if we're being honest, it's not. It is a popularity contest in a lot of ways. So the more you make connections, it will be easier moving forward. That first foot in the door is always going to be the hardest. So if you've got any sort of advantage, like, oh, Joe Schmo, who played Bob, was also in this TV show that they've heard of, they'll maybe give it an extra look because of that. And then you'll want to add specifications. So this is a feature, not a short. It is a thriller, drama, horror. And then you'll add runtime. It's an hour 20. And you want to be pretty specific with that. I'm not saying necessarily get it down to the exact seconds or anything. Like, I don't think they need to know that there's 6 seconds in there. But if it's, an hour and 15, don't say it's an hour 20. Because a big part of why they care about the runtime is the scheduling. It's very important. They're trying to make everything fit into a very compact, tight schedule, typically, for these festivals. So let them know. Because it being an hour 20 versus an hour 10 could be the difference between them showing it or not. And it doesn't seem like it should be, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just too long and it doesn't fit into their schedule. Then you want to let them know the completion date, because that's a big thing. Some festivals will let you submit something from 5 years ago or whatever. A lot of them, though, it has to be made or completed since the last festival. If you completed it in 2021 or whatever, then they'll be like, no, you had years to submit. We don't care about this movie anymore. It's too late. A lot of the bigger festivals are like that. Some of the smaller ones don't care, but it's very important to be honest with this information, because if they find out that it's not actually eligible for the festival, then you're wasting your time and money, because it's not like they're gonna just give you back your money for being wrong about all this stuff. Similarly, production budget. Mine was around $25,000, so that's important to tell them because of a couple different things. There will be different categories in festivals, and something like a low-budget movie means something different to different people. So there's, low budget typically means, like, if you're talking to a studio, under $1 million. But then there's things like micro-budget or no-budget movies. What is micro-budget? To a lot of people, it's in the hundreds of thousands. What's a no-budget? And a lot of these festivals, $25,000 counts as a no-budget feature. But to other people, the line is at $15,000, so you're not eligible. So you need to be honest and open about this, because it dictates what you can and cannot do with the movie. Also, giving out the production budget can be a good thing, because maybe somebody will look at your feature and be like, no way, or your short, and be like, no way this was done for under $1 million. And then you're like, oh, nope, did it for $2. And they're like, what? So if you're able to impress people with that, then that's a plus too, because like I said, anything to help stand you out. So then you'll just finish country of origin, United States, country of filming, language, all of that. Student project, no. First time filmmaker, yes. That, once again, something that can help you stand out. If they're like, wow, this is the first time they've ever made something, that might impress some people. That was the case with my film. There was a few categories, a few festivals we got into under the category of first time filmmaker, and people were like, this was the first time you made something, and that impresses people. It's something cool. Also, though, if you have submitted to festivals before using this website, you can enter in whatever festivals or awards you've been into and won and all that, because once again, if you've already shown somewhere, that limits where you can show. Somebody like Sundance, you have to be premiering there. If you've already been in a festival somewhere else, they have no interest in your movie. So once again, you have to be honest about that, or you could get in trouble later on down the road. So I've already submitted this to a bunch of different festivals, so we can see what a completed project looks like by clicking on the actual project. So when you finish, you're also going to either submit a link of your movie if it's on YouTube or Vimeo or something like that, or you can upload your movie directly to the website, but there is a size limit to the file. So for me, it was a feature. I couldn't upload the entire movie in high resolution HD, so I had to link it through like a hidden YouTube link. So there it is right there. You can click on that, watch it. Mine is hidden so that only people that I submit to can see it. And then here is the trailer. Once again, these are just things that will help people want to accept and watch your movie. Also, similarly, you can make different things private. So the movie itself is private, the trailer's not. So a festival that I didn't submit to can come along and watch that trailer and be like, hey, please, please, please submit to our festival. We love your trailer. We really want to see your movie. We'll let you get in for free or 50% off or whatever. I will say a lot of that scams. Personally, if they're emailing you asking for your movie and you're Joe Schmo, not James Cameron, ignore them, because most of it is just people who are desperate for money. So I will say, though, it does allow for that opportunity. Most of it will be scams, but it does allow for that opportunity. Anyway, so now you see other stuff here. Obviously, I uploaded a poster, the primary poster. We see the synopsis that I talked about earlier. We've got a bunch of stills. These are from the movie, just screen grabs from throughout the movie, something to make you a little bit more interested and be like, ooh, that's eye-catching. Once again, none of this should affect it, because technically they should be watching the whole movie, so you shouldn't be trying to win them over outside of the movie. But honestly, unfortunately, it does matter. So anything that you can do to help your presentation is a good thing. Something with that is a website link, or here, I've got an article that one of the other festivals wrote about my movie, so it makes it look better, makes it look more professional to have people talking about you. And then you have a little biography about yourself. Here, I'm looking very professional off in that direction. I don't know, something was over there. And so I say, Simon Stockdale has worked since 2017 as a film critic and comedian on YouTube under the name Simon's Rants. The Softening is his first feature film. So once again, just a brief little thing to let you get to know me. If you are a critic, you might not want to talk about that, but that's really all I've got going for me personally is my presence on YouTube. So it's just all I really can do. When I'm submitting next year or whenever I get my next film, I won't probably talk about that as much, because obviously critics aren't very popular among artists. So maybe not the best thing, but it really was my only hook, so I kind of threw that out there in case it might help. And then you've got a director's statement that you can write about the movie, about the project. And once again, it's just think of it kind of as like a cover letter. Imagine yourself on America's Got Talent or American Idol. You're trying to get that golden buzzer. So if your parents both died when you were 2 years old and you've been living on your own ever since, let them know, because you're trying to just get that connection, get that sympathy points or whatever you can. I know it sounds cheap, I know it sounds lame, but that's just how it works, unfortunately. So here you're going to hear a little bit of a story about me if you haven't been on this channel or don't watch all my videos. Story time, kids! So I am proud to announce my first feature film, The Softening. Filmmaking was a lifelong dream that I was too afraid to pursue until I was hit by a drunk driver in the summer of 2021. I temporarily lost the ability to focus my eyes, discern the difference between hot and cold, and sleep due to the extreme pain and vertigo. Throughout my recovery, I worked on the script daily, and when it came time, I cashed in my savings, took out multiple loans, and did everything I could to bring my dream to life. The story is extremely personal to me, as it is based on my own worst fears and family experiences. The budget was practically non-existent with $25,000 US, but I am so proud of what my cast, crew, and I were able to accomplish with so little. I hope you enjoy watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. So once again, just letting them know who I am, my mission statement, if you will, throwing out the budget there again, because I am proud. I'm not just joking when I say that. I am proud. I think my movie looks like it cost twice as much as it did. So I like mentioning the budget because it's something to be like, look, maybe I could do something even better with a bigger budget. I know budget's not everything when it comes to movies, but it certainly helps. Which I think is probably the next thing I'll get into, is when you're submitting to festivals. We can go over that a little bit in a second, but you need to know what your movie is, right? There's a million different festivals. They're all focusing on different things. You need to know what to be focusing on and what you have. So I'm not saying don't make a movie if you don't have $1 million to spend on it, because clearly I didn't, and I made a $25,000 movie. A lot of the festivals I went to had much more expensive movies than that, even some shorts that were more expensive than that. But you work within your means. You work within what you have. You know, if you've got $10,000 or less, if you've got a few $100s to make a movie, you can do that, but maybe don't make it a big epic sci-fi adventure, because it won't look good. Something that's relying on, special effects and stuff, if you don't have them, will look silly. So maybe make a drama, something that's focused on people talking, and that can also be, a romance or a comedy, because a lot of that is just sitting around talking as well. As long as the writing's good and the acting is good, that can work. And also, horror and thriller is a pretty cheap genre if done right. I know a lot of horror movies now rely on CGI monstrosities, but think about something like Halloween. It was just a guy with a dollar store mask walking around with a knife. You can do something like that. If you're creative, if you're talented, you don't need a big budget to make something like that work. But you have to understand what you're submitting to. So there's a lot of different festivals on here, a lot of different categories. So I'll go to my submissions tab here, and you can see, truth be told, I haven't heard back from every festival I've submitted to yet. So it could make my stats look a little bit better. It could make them look a little bit worse. If you go to dashboard here, you can see, though, that I've gotten into 21% of the festivals I've submitted to. So a 21% success rate, selection rate, that's about normal. I Googled it before I started this process, and they say expect around 20%. Obviously, there's a lot of variables involved in that, but don't expect to get into every festival, and also don't expect to not get into any unless your movie's garbage, because there's a niche pretty much for everything, so just you need to find the niche. But anyway, when you look at these festivals, there will often be many different categories. So for example, the Fourth Dimension Independent Film Festival, I submitted to that. This was a best first time filmmaker category that I submitted to. And that's important because that makes it just a little bit easier maybe if you're competing with other first time filmmakers instead of everybody across the board. Or, for example, I didn't get into it, but the Philadelphia Film Festival, you can submit under local films, which is what I did. And not only is that therefore a smaller category with less people to compete against, it can also be cheaper. For example, with the Philadelphia Film Festival, at the time I submitted, because the submission cost can go up, I'll click on that to show you, it goes up depending on the deadline. So the regular deadline is $60 for the narrative feature film. If you go down to the local films, though, it's only $40. So you want to pay attention to that because that could help save you money. There's also, you'll notice here, a thing called gold. Like this is gold. Or if you go down here, gold members, it's only $36. So that's just a standard membership you can sign up for. It does cost a certain amount of money, so you have to make it worth it to, make it worth signing up for. So try to submit to all the festivals that you want to submit to around the same time. So only paying for like 1 month of it instead of keep paying that fee. So instead of like, oh, I don't know how much it is because it's been a while, but like say it costs $20 and then you save $5 on a submission, that's not worth it. But if you submit to all 20, 30, whatever festivals you submit to, and you save $5 or whatever that ends up being on each one, then it's totally worth it. But you just have to schedule and, think ahead like that. Finding festivals is pretty simple on here. You want to go to open festivals only probably, and then, all right, I'm in Philadelphia. I want to find a festival near me. You type in Philadelphia. All right, sort by relevance, sort by next deadline. You can sort by a bunch of different things. Event date, all of that, and then you'll go through and try and find something that applies to you. So, Trenton Film Festival, that's nearby. I want to submit. But then you go and look. Okay, so it's got documentary feature, documentary short, narrative feature, narrative short, experimental, animation. So for me, this would be fine. I could submit to that because I've got a narrative feature. But if you're one of the people that's submitting just like a script or whatever, you couldn't do that. So what you want to do is you can also narrow it down by categories over here. So it's a feature or whatever. And then, I want to find a gold festival, film festivals. I don't care about the online festivals, so I'm going to leave that alone. I want only the in-person festivals. So whatever you want, you can, narrow it down by that. I only want to submit to festivals that cost $10 to submit to. Oh, all of a sudden, not a whole lot going on. So, but you can do that if you want to. So, a lot of different things. It's pretty simple. And the main appeal of it is it's all in one place. Because in the past, you would have to mail DCP like files to every different festival, finding their address or their website or whatever. Now you just upload or, submit a link one time. And then from there, you just have to submit and then, pay the fees as you go. So it's very easy, very simple. It's all in one place. So that's the first thing. You want to go to Film Freeway, and that will make it very easy. So I'm going to go over here because I think it's extremely important to keep track of everything. And maybe I'm a little bit OCD with this or whatever, but I think it's very important because, like I said, there's a lot of information here, one of which is when things are being shown. So if you look at this list here, I was really interested in getting into Sundance. I didn't, obviously, or you would have heard much more about it and me by now. But so the notification date was December 4th of last year. So all of these festivals that I'd submitted to, they had a premiere date before that date. So I had to keep in mind, were they worth saying no to if I thought I had a chance at Sundance, So the Toronto Independent Festival or Philadelphia, would I be able to say no to them if they accepted and said, we want to premiere your film at our festival this day? Is it worth saying no to them, hoping to get into Sundance? Versus a different, smaller festival, it might be easier to say no, holding out for them. Honestly, though, it didn't matter at all, so you can throw that out because it didn't affect me. But it may affect you, so that's something to keep an eye on, is when these festivals are happening, because it may affect it. So, once again, I have premiere status eligibility next to all of these. So most of them you'll see are no, there's no requirements, and that's kind of normal. I think most of the smaller ones don't care, they just want to get your movie in there. But bigger ones, so like San Diego, yes, for the area, and what that means is it has to be like a San Diego or California premiere. So it can be shown in Philadelphia, but it can't have shown anywhere in San Diego or California yet. Yes, period, just means it has to be the premiere, the world premiere. Like here, Sundance has to be the world premiere. Yes, area for that was the Austin Revolution. Orlando, the Florida Film Festival has to be area as well. So you'll see that a lot. Just something to keep in mind, something to help you keep tabs on all of it. Also, you want to keep tabs on how much you're spending on all these, because the average submission price is around $30. Not a lot, but it does add up. So we ended up spending over $1,200 on it, which is, a pretty hefty price, but it's kind of worth it because you're trying to get that exposure, you're trying to meet people. That is a big deal. And so speaking of trying to meet people, you want to keep track of locations. A lot of festivals that we submitted to were around the world, but you want to submit to festivals that, for the most part, you think you can get to and are planning to get to. I was in Austin for a festival because I was meeting people. So if you don't think you'll get to Prague for a film festival, maybe don't submit to it. There's pros and cons, if you get into it, you may win an award or whatever. You can just have the official selection laurel on your poster or, on your website or whatever, on your IMDb page. All of that looks good, but the most important thing is meeting people. It's networking. Like I said, you're trying to get your foot in that door, so you're trying to get people to know you and like your movie. So you want to get to know people, and I hate networking, I hate selling myself, I hate all of that, but it's so much of the importance. I would say 90% of the importance of festivals is being there, meeting people. Having your movie shown to people is great. Having a laurel, awesome. Winning an award or a trophy or whatever, cool. But you need to meet people, you need to network, you need to expand your world as a filmmaker, as a creator, as an artist. Keep that in mind when you're submitting to places. Do you really want to go to a festival in Germany or anywhere in Europe, really, for that matter? Can you afford that? Is that something, or even something like Florida? Can you afford to fly to Florida right now? Keep that in mind, because maybe it's not worth it. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but it's something to think about. I'm going to blur most of this, but what I also did was I was constantly going back and reminding myself who these festivals were and, what I expected from, if I thought I was going to get into, and I put them in various tiers, like, S tier, A tier, B, C, D, F, all of that. Just all this information, you don't have to do this, but I like having all this information because it helped me relax and kind of know. Now, honestly, I didn't know what I was doing when I first started submitting to festivals. So we'll go to the next page here, and you'll see how many we got rejected from. And a lot of them were festivals that for example, we'll pull up Puff. Puff is the Philadelphia Unnamed Film Festival. And my expectation was an exclamation point, which means I'm going to get into this because it's Philadelphia. It's not the big one. It's only been around a few years. And I watched clips from the films that have been there before, and it was all B horror movies. Ours is better than that. We'll definitely get into this one. And we didn't get into it. And you know why? Because they only really accept B horror movies. So my movie, I can think, is better than that, but that's not what they're into. That's not what they're asking for. So similarly, there was another festival that I knew I wasn't going to get into pretty quickly after I submitted to it. Underground Indie Film Festival. Horror, cult, sci-fi, fantasy is what it's called. And once again, it's a similar thing where it's like this like B horror. Like you see this guy, this picture here, you know, it's like dinosaur costume, really silly looking stuff. And it's because that they're into that B horror stuff. That's the niche that they're going for. And me not getting into that was not a surprise. But when I first submitted, I was like, hell yeah, I'm definitely getting into this. But you have to find your movie matches as far as a festival is concerned. Because every festival has a vibe, you know. They may not all claim that they do, you know, Sundance, oh, we accept everything. No, you don't. You accept really artsy stuff that has Daniel Radcliffe in it, you know. They're not going to accept just anything. Not saying don't submit to Sundance. I did. I will every time I make a movie. Not that I'm going to ever expect to get in there, but you're going to keep trying, right? But, like, keep in mind, for example, like, so the Austin Revolution Film Festival, the one we actually won Best in Show. That one was a shot in the dark that I lucked out on because I didn't know a whole lot about the festival, but what they preached as an organization was, we're filmmakers for filmmakers. We want to network, we just want good movies, we don't care what genre, and they really said that and they really believed it. Not everybody does. It was really just about making movies. And my movie is not the artsiest of movies. It's not a B-horror movie. It doesn't fall into a whole lot of niches. It is very much just people passionate about making film. And so you have to find a festival that is that category, you know? And so there were some that fit that and some that didn't. And even some that we thought we fit into, we didn't get into. Like I said, 20%. You're only getting to about 20% of the festival you submit into, and that's fine. Actually, the guy, Jim, the guy who runs the Austin Revolution Film Festival, he said this, so I'm giving him credit for it. But he said, if you went through the casting process of a movie, you said no to a lot of people. Did you hate them, or did you expect them to get offended for being not let into your movie? If not, then you shouldn't be offended or hate the people for not accepting your movie into the festival. Because it's the same thing. You're auditioning. So many people are all trying to get into this one slot. It's impossible. So you cannot take anything personally. An example is, I got into Allentown Film Festival, which I'm very proud of. We got into that. I love that festival. It's only a couple years old, but it was a great festival for how young it was. I'm proud to be in it because it was kind of like an artsier crowd. Allentown's an artsy town, and I was really happy to be in there. Meanwhile, the production company I worked with, Elemento, they also had made a short film in the same calendar year that they were submitting to festivals. They didn't get into that. And you go, oh, well, obviously your movie's better than theirs. No, because they got into, I forget which festival, I think it was the Philadelphia Independent Film Festival, something like that, which we didn't get into. And so it's subjective. Art is subjective, so don't take anything personally at all, ever, because people will not like your stuff and other people will, and you won't always know why. The most common award we've won has to do with acting, specifically mine. I've won Best Actor multiple times now, and I don't for the life of me know why, because I've said it a million times, but I'll say it again. I feel that I am the worst actor in my own movie, but I keep winning Best Actor, so you never know what's going to land with people, and you never know who is going to like what. So you can do a lot of educated guesses, but you're never going to be 100% right, so don't take anything personally, but try not to waste your money submitting to festivals that obviously are not for you. If the festival says its main thing is B-horror movies, or sci-fi, or horror, and you're like, thriller's close to horror, because my movie's not really a horror, it's more of a thriller, maybe don't submit to that one, you know? I think that's a really important lesson that I had to learn the hard way. And so on this last page of this, you'll actually see this is the order in which I submitted in. And so it took me months to submit to a festival that I actually got accepted into. But as I went, I got smarter and, well, not smarter, I got more knowledgeable. I knew better about what I was doing. And so I got into a couple, and then I won one, and then I won a couple. And so it's like, once you actually know what you're doing, it really does help a lot. And then you can kind of work up from there. And like I said, the more you get into, the more you'll get into in the future. Also, there's various kinds of festivals here. There's certain ones that you kind of want to avoid. If they're online only, that's... I'm not saying never do that. I did a few of those. One in particular that I do recommend that kind of goes against everything I'm about to say is IndieFest. Because IndieFest does not have a screening, and everybody gets a trophy to an extent. Because what IndieFest is instead of... if you get accepted into it, they will put you in a category. So we won in a category called, like, Award of Merit. And, you know, it goes from Best in Show to another category to Award of Merit, and then Award of Recognition was, I think, the lowest one. And so you're kind of just being graded on an A, B, C, D, or whatever. And so we essentially got, like, a C, which is, like, it's cool. But, like... that's something that you want to have for your website or your poster or whatever. But like I said, how much is that worth it to you? Because that's all you're getting out of it. That submission cost was $30. Like I said, the average submission fee is around there. So every once in a while, that's fine. And I'm not saying never do that, but don't make that your whole thing. I've seen people before that ended up with like 40 laurels on their poster, and that's cool and all, but anybody that knows anything knows that none of those laurels mean much at all. What means something is when you've got a recognizable festival that can put their laurel on there. Something like Austin Revolution, which is not like the biggest festival in the world. I think it's the third biggest festival in Austin, Texas, or the second. It's in that range, but it's something that means something to the people that know about it, you know? So having any laurel on there looks good. If you don't have anything, it looks bad. But you want to have things that actually mean something to somebody. Obviously, something like Sundance or Toronto looks great, but if you can't that, you know, not all of us, I'm not getting into A-list, A-tier, S-tier, even B-tier festivals, honestly. We got into, you know, C and D-tier festivals, and that's fine, because that's what we were. We're going to work up from here and trying to get into something bigger and better as we go, but it's like, know what your movie is. And I talked briefly about this at the beginning, but like, that's really important. If you're going to make a movie, know what your means are and work within it. So my movie was $25,000. And so we made a movie that we knew we could for $25,000. If your budget is less or more than that, act accordingly and you'll be fine. But like I said, don't try to make Avatar. Don't try to make this huge epic sci-fi adventure when you've got $2 to your name, because it's not going to work. And once you know what your project is, for me, like I said, it's a group of passionate filmmakers trying to make a real film, something that is dialogue driven, something that has good visuals and is a script that is actually interesting, not just, you know, appealing to the lowest common denominator. Then you'll find festivals that also like that stuff. Not saying that you're better than everybody else because you did it a specific way, but you're not a B horror movie, so don't submit to a B horror movie festival. I think I've beat that dead horse enough, but you get the idea. Also, you'll see over here subcategories. That was something that, you know, you also want to pay attention to. No budget. This festival, their no budget limit was $25,000, which is right where we were, so you could submit to that for that. Horror, local film, first time director. See, we got into a couple of festivals because we were in that first time filmmaker category. Maybe we would have gotten in regardless, but it's like you want to submit to things that, you know, are going to help you out. No budget, once again, first time director, independent, first time, thriller, indie, all of that stuff. Subcategories that you'll see over here on Film Freeway. You see all of these different categories you have: indie, horror, cult, sci-fi, fantasy, action, comedy, micro budget. See, their budget is $20,000 or less, so not everybody's micro budget is the same. Comedy, you know, what all of these stuff. And so, see, we should have taken it as a hint that they didn't have thriller listed there, because that's what our movie is. And we went, oh, we're close enough to horror, and we submitted anyway. And then they went, well, this doesn't have any, you know, dinosaurs ripping off people's arms, we don't care. You know? And so it's like, it's not their fault. They told you what they were asking for. You have to listen to that, you know? I will say there are certain festivals that have a million different categories, and that's a bad thing. But so like this says best narrative feature, this says best film short. That's fine because it's a short and a feature. They can't win the same award. But like if there was like best director, best actor, best actress, and they're all separate categories, and they're asking you to, pay $10 for each one, that's a scam too. 99% of the time, because if they're really just a film festival that cares about good movies and wanting to put them on display and award those filmmakers for their hard work, they'll do that. And then they'll see here in the awards and prizes, there's subcategories: best director, best producer, best actor, best actress, supporting, all of these things. Those aren't categories to submit to. When you submit to the feature, you'll also be considered for these other awards, and that's how it should be, But some festivals, it's pay to win. So avoid those. Avoid festivals that, for the most part, avoid festivals that are only online. There's very few exceptions to that. Mostly ignore those emails that you're getting like, oh, we're a great festival, totally believe us, here is 50% off, or we love your movie, we saw it, we really want to see it and show it. Call their bluff on it, If you really like my movie that much and you want to show it, let me submit for free. And they go, oh no, we're just going to give you 40% off, 50% off. Then you can say they're not serious about it. They don't actually love your movie. They just want your money. So just things to keep in mind. People are going to try and scam you. I actually had a festival I submitted to because it was pretty cheap. And so I thought, what's the worst that could happen? And then the festival never happened. It kept getting pushed back and back and back. I looked up the festival. The first year the festival ran, the director of the festival's movie won. And it's like, red flag. So I submitted to that festival. That festival no longer exists. So that stuff happens. So you gotta kind of do your research. They usually have a website or their Instagram linked here, so you can go there, check it out, see how legit it looks, all that kind of stuff. Just be smart with it, because they're doing a great job on Film Freeway to get rid of scammers and stuff, but there's always going to be stuff out there. And like I said, the average submission cost is $30, in that range. Some will be a lot more than that, like Toronto was close to 80, San Diego was over 80, Chicago was 100, which I think is ridiculous. Sundance is 70, Slamdance is 60, so it's like they're not all as cheap as 30. That's just kind of what it averages out to be. But also keep in mind, if it seems too good to be true, like here's an $11 one I fell for, here's a $3.50 I fell for, here's a $7.30 I fell for. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is, because they're just going, if we only charge $5, everybody will submit. All of the morons, including me, will submit. And then we only have to accept, 10 of them, 20 of them. And then we'll just throw it up online and say, yeah, we had a festival online. It's great. They don't care. They're just trying to get in everybody's $5. So just be aware of that. Learn from that. Not every festival that is cheap is a scam, but just try and pay attention, because there will be signs if it is a scam. So, for example, Allentown, it was only $22. So you're like, oh, it's on the cheap side. Not enough to necessarily raise red flags, but you're maybe paying attention. So you go to their website. You look at them. First of all, their page looks good. They show you, the picture of where they're showing it. You know that it's in person. There's in-person meet and greets. Here's a room full of people, and they're not exaggerating. You can see the entire room, so you know what you're working with. So it's like, oh, okay, it's a local, smaller theater. All right, I get it. Cool. But then, like I said, go to their website. Here's their website. Okay, so I get what we're going for. It's, it's professional. There's sponsors involved. There's actual, I can trust these people to not just steal my money and run. And so, even though it's only, at the time it was 2 years, now it's 3 years running, you get a vibe for who these people are by checking them out. There's signs there, just pay attention. It's pretty simple, but your first time you're going to make mistakes. Like I said, I spent over $1,200. I probably could have gotten away with spending not half of that, but definitely a lot less, if I just knew what I was doing and not submitting to one scams, but also two festivals that I had no right submitting to because they were into B horror movies, which is really the mistake I made and kept making the most. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers all of it. Honestly, just submit to whatever you think you've got a shot at. Because maybe your movie's better than you think it is. Just submit to Sundance. Why not? I'm not saying I'm not being sponsored by them saying give them your money. But it's like, go ahead, throw it out there, see what happens. your movie, whether it was filmed, like some of these categories on some of these festivals, like Austin, I think it had a category for movies filmed on your phone. So if that's what you want to do, then submit to something like that. Just make movies, dude. Just go out and make it, and then that's how you submit it, and see what happens, you know? Honestly, the Austin Revolution Film Festival was not a festival I expected to get into, and I got into. And there was a lot of festivals I knew I was going to get into, and then I didn't. So don't take anything personally. Let it roll right off you, you know, and just keep going. And like I said, I wasn't expecting to win awards that I've won, and then there was other things that I thought I would win and I didn't. So just let it happen, you know. You've made the movie, hopefully at this point. If you're watching this video, now it's time for people to see it. Let them decide what to do with it. So, I hope that was informative, I hope that was helpful, and I hope that was a little bit of fun too. If you have any questions, I've never done a video like this before, so maybe I didn't make any sense. So if you need any follow-up, you need anything explained a little bit more, I'd love to talk more about it in the comments. And of course, if you just have questions about filmmaking or my movie or any kind of movie, I'd love to talk about that too. So thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, I hope this helped. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Thanks, guys. Bye.